What's good, everybody? It is episode 101 of the Standing Eight podcast. Our first episode after our episode 100 anniversary. Thanks for everyone who got involved, who were viewers and listeners of that episode. It was a very special episode, so be sure to catch that when you have time. But here we are in the present, episode 101 of the Standing Eight podcast. I got tonight on this live stream the first lady of boxing, certified USA boxing official, Tiffany Daniels in the building. Any words, opening thoughts you want to share with us, Tiffany? Go ahead, Tiffany.
I'm just happy to be here. I'm sorry I was running in from another event, so I'm just happy to be here and I was able to make it.
Right. And also a follow up to that. Any upcoming events locally in your area that I know we talked about this briefly, but you'll be attending some fights. Any standout names you want to shout out while we're in this intro?
So as far as locally on an amateur level, we have a
Yeah.
local film called Millville Boxing. They'll be having a show here April the 20th. Real Deal Boxing, which is the #1 boxing gym in the nation, they'll be having an event on May the 4th, I believe. I think what's the day of Canelo's fight? It's the 4th. I think it's the same day as that. They'll be having an event here as well on May the 4th. We got some people that's competing from Cincinnati Golden Gloves and the Toledo Golden Gloves this weekend. So shout out to them and whatever other teams. I know they are going there for sure. But also April the 20th, the Mason brothers, if anybody's familiar with Abdullah Mason, I'm sure everybody's heard that name. His youngest brother, I believe his name is Ibrahim, he is going pro. So it'll be his first fight. They're having it in Cleveland, April 20th as well. So I'm kind of in a bind. I don't know which show I'm going to go local or if I'm going to drive 4 hours to Cleveland to go check out the brother. So.
Awesome, Tiffany. Also with us on this episode 101, none other than Gary Kittleson of 3D Boxing Blog. How you doing, sir? Any opening thoughts? Shout outs you want to give out? Go ahead, sir.
First off, I actually met all of Mason's brothers. He was at the Oshaki Foster fight at the Garden with all his brothers. And yeah, I think Ibrahim is the youngest one. He's 17, maybe 18. He's real young. But yeah, the Masons are good people. They're good people. So looking forward to seeing all of them. I mean, they're all as talented as Abdullah, that they got a bright future. April 13th, which is next Friday in Corpus Christi, a kid named King Julian Delgado is a multiple-time national champ. He's making his pro debut on the Top Rank card. It'll be a live stream, but it's really early. So if you guys can catch that full live stream, Julian Delgado is his name. Really, really good amateur. He makes his pro debut. He's from Corpus Christi. He'll make his pro debut on that card, the Top Rank card.
Awesome. Also, I know I'm going off in a little bit of a tangent here, but this wasn't part of our main agenda. But Gary, you were at the on the weekend of March 3rd. You were at the Top Rank. You were covering the Top Rank card live, Ground Zero, where we had Sinisa Estrada defeating Yukasa Valle to become the undisputed female minimum weight champion, and also you had Oscar Valdez defeating Liam Wilson TKO in the 7th round to win the vacant interim WBO super featherweight title. So just give us your biggest takeaways from that event, your thoughts on the fight briefly, and also any upcoming names that stood out to you from that whole event while you were there.
Well, first the vibe, the fight city of Phoenix it's a great fight city. It really is. It's one of the best in the country. Pretty good crowd. There wasn't a local Phoenix fighter on it, right? In at least on the main card. They just came out for a good night of boxing. They supported Estrada, like they went crazy for Estrada. And I found something interesting about that. Everyone in the venue, besides me, I had it 6-4 Estrada. Everyone in the venue had it for Valle. Everyone watching on TV had it for Estrada. So
wow,
I don't know. It's one of those things. Like Bradley Pacquiao, if you were in the arena, people thought it was close. Everyone watching at home thought Pacquiao won like 11 rounds. It was weird. Like I was sitting on press row. I had it 6-4. I said, but it's a coin toss. Toss it up. Every other person on press row said, oh, Valle won. And then I texted it back home. And everyone's like, oh, Estrada won that clearly. I'm like, I don't know what to make of that. But it was a really good night of boxing. And then Valdez made pretty easy work of Wilson, and I thought that was going to be a much tougher fight. But Phoenix is a great fight city. On the undercard, a lot of you guys, I'm guessing, are familiar with the heavyweight former Olympian Richard Torres.
He's been making.
He's going to. It's just a matter of time for him. Him and Jared Anderson will both have heavyweight titles within, I say, 2 years, and then it's a collision course. That's another Ohio guy, right? Right, Tiffany? Jared Big Baby Anderson is an Ohio guy.
Yeah, he's from Toledo.
What's so?
Awesome.
I think he's living in Texas now, but he's from Toledo, Ohio.
Gary, also one last thing. Since you were live after the fight, were you able to catch like the replay from the viewer side as if you were watching it on television? If so, do you think like the broadcasters were painting this pro Estrada narrative? Maybe that's why people watching on the streaming sites, they were feeling Estrada won. Your thoughts on that?
Maybe. I thought watching it live in the venue, I thought Estrada won, but I was like in a complete minority, right? Like no one else thought she won. But I mean, Top Rank is known for this, especially Bradley. And I'm not mad at Bradley. Bradley got that Top Rank money for Pacquiao ×3. So I understand why he's loyal to Top Rank. But he's very loyal to Top Rank. He loves Top Rank guys. He always favors Top Rank fighters. I think they're going to favor the Top Rank fighter, especially Estrada, who they have big plans for, who is not just a great fighter, but she's a great story. She's really attractive. You can sell her. You can make a lot of money off of her. They needed her to win. So, there's probably, some home fighter A-side bias in the stream, just to be honest.
Great stuff. And Tiffany, before we tackle our main agenda, your thoughts on that Top Rank card, especially specifically speaking, Seniesa Estrada and Oscar Valdez's respective wins. Your thoughts?
I thought it was a tough fight for Estrada, but like I said, I feel like some of the announcers, sometimes you got to watch that stuff with the sound off because you can get kind of annoyed by what they're saying ringside. So I agree with Gary, but I missed his last point because I kind of went out of the stream. But I only watched I didn't see Oscar Valdez's fight at all. I did see the ending part of Estrada's fight.
Awesome. So let's head to our main agenda. PBC debut pay-per-view event on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but it did pretty well, pretty extraordinary numbers given the circumstances. So on March 30th at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, you had the PBC debut premiere. You had Sebastian, the Towering Inferno, Fundora of West Palm Beach, Florida, winning the split decision victory over Australia's former super welterweight champion, Tszyu. Fundora now becomes the new unified WBC, WBO 154-pound champion. Obviously, we saw that up until Tszyu incidentally ran into Fundora's elbow in the second round. Tszyu is having his way with Fundora, landing his straight rights numerous times in that brief first round up to that moment in the second round. But it was clear since that elbow clash in the second, Tszyu wasn't able to perform at the top of his game as his vision was greatly hindered by the continuous flow of blood coming from that huge cut at the top of his head. You could see his timing was a bit off at times, and he was getting tagged with jabs from Fundora more than we're used to seeing in Tszyu's past fights. Although Tszyu connected higher and power punches, there was never a moment where Fundora was genuinely hurt from those attacks. As for Fundora, you couldn't really blame him for taking that window of opportunity where Tszyu was pretty much a shell of himself, being self-conscious of that cut. So let's get to you, Tiffany. Give us, before you give us your reaction to how that fight actually played out, we never talked about our predictions for that fight, especially when Thurman couldn't make it, couldn't because of his injuries, he had to be replaced by Fundora. But how did you see Fundora matching up with Tszyu before that fight even happened, and as well as your thoughts in the actual result?
Okay, before I get to that, I'm going to answer Jaime Garza's question in the Ibrahim is in the lightweight division, I believe. I could be totally wrong, but I believe he's in the lightweight division. But I'll find out for sure and let you guys know on that one. But getting back to that, I really didn't have a prediction going in, only because I was kind of biased because I felt like Jamonte Clark from Ohio, from Cincinnati, had beat Sebastian Fundora previously, and he had gotten knocked out. So I was kind of feeling like I didn't want to go with the crowd of people that was just like saying Tim Tszyu was just going to walk through it. They were already making plans for Tim Tszyu for his next fight. No matter if he was fighting Thurman or Sebastian Fundora, they kind of already had plans for this guy and his trajectory. Like, oh, who's he going to fight? Errol Spence? He's going to fight Terrence Crawford. And Sebastian Fundora kind of like put a monkey wrench in that plan. And he took advantage of that. Like you said, that his reach, Tim Tszyu was just kind of like, at a loss. He couldn't see anything. And for one, I blame his corner. I'd have stopped that shit right away. Back at round 4, I would have stopped the fight or would have done something. But you can see when he came out in round 4, he came out with like some aggression because it was like, I got to get a knockout. We need to go to the scorecards. And I kept thinking, when is the ref or the doctor going to stop this fight and go to the cards? And they just continue to let this guy fight. I would have stopped it. At least he wouldn't have, maybe got a no contest, or maybe he could have potentially won on the cards. I just felt like he got dealt a bad hand, and there's nothing wrong with stopping the fight. Like he went out on his shield, and that's great, but now you got a loss. So it is, and you just kind of like blew everything, like your trajectory. But Sebastian Fundora, we can't take anything away from him. He did have like a broken nose. He was bleeding profusely as well. Not just him, he was also bleeding. And it was kind of like a battle of the cut man. Who can stop the cuts? Who can stop the bleeding in the corners? It was like a bloodbath. Man, it was crazy. I've never seen anything like so bloody in a fight like that. So that was just my predictions. I don't know. I just felt like it was just kind of like just crazy, like bizarro type of moments in that fight.
Yeah. It's crazy that, from my point of view, people generally were giving more emphasis to the cut that Tszyu suffered. But let's not forget, Fundora was getting punishment as well. Even though Tszyu was being hindered by that flow of blood, he was still able to fight back and get numerous moments even throughout the rest of the fight. So that just shows what Tszyu could have been at 100% in that fight. So great take, Tiffany. Gary, let's take it to you. Give us, before that fight even happened, how did you see them matching up before they even entered the ring, and also your reaction to the actual fight?
I've never been a believer in Tszyu ever, right? But I've been wrong. I picked Goucher to beat him, and then it was Tony Harrison, and who was his last fight? I picked him to lose every big fight he's ever been in, and I've been wrong every time. All right, so when it was announced it was Thurman, I was like, Thurman's going to get him. Thurman's a world-class fighter. Thurman's got too much speed for him. Thurman is not going to be small. He's not going to lose any power. Thurman's going to beat him. And then the late replacement came in. Like, I still don't believe in Tszyu, right? I'm like, You know what? I don't want to be wrong again, so I'll just pick Tszyu. Even though I really don't think he's any good. And I'm talking about, like, who you pick? Like, I guess Tszyu. Like, I never pick Tszyu to win. I always pick him to lose. I should have picked Fundora. But, like, I didn't want to be wrong again. So I picked Tszyu. I picked Tszyu. Let's be fair. Fundora deserved a decision. He did. He won the fight. But like Tiffany said, the headbutt, the cut changed whatever it was, elbow, I think it was, that opened that up. Yeah. That changed everything. That changed the entire tempo of the fight. If they fought again without that cut, Tszyu probably wins. I mean, we can't go back and rewrite history, but if they fought again, I would pick Tszyu. I'm not taking any credit away from Fundora. The elbow happened; it was accidental. It is what it is. Fundora won the fight, and he looked good. But if they fought again, I would definitely lean towards Tszyu, because it looked like the first couple of rounds Tszyu was in control of that fight until the cut happened. But it was one of those nasty. It's like it cut Badu Jack, if you remember that fight,
Yeah.
and Marlena Esparza with Sinisa Estrada had
Ooh,
a
yeah.
cut. Yeah, like those
Down the
those are
center.
the
Yeah.
three that really come to mind.
Crazy. And in the aftermath of that whole bloody fight, you have a lot of names attached to this fight. First, you had Spence coming up, making his campaign to fight the winner, and also to make things a little bit more complicated, um, the WBO has ordered a fight to be negotiated between Fundora and Terrence Crawford, and also the Nevada State, NSAC, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, recently issued suspensions for both Fundora and Tszyu to have them recover from their respective injuries and their bloody battle. So, knowing all of this, Tiffany, what do you see realistically happening for both Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora going forward?
I honestly don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, who's in control here?
Yeah.
Like, what is so much boxing politics that's going on? I got a feeling Tim Tszyu is going to be fighting Errol Spence because they want that fight to happen. Even though I feel like he doesn't deserve it. Not because, he lost, but it's like you're campaigning another weight division, you automatically get a title shot. What about the top 10 154 pounders? What about Terrence Crawford being, the undisputed? He should get that shot, right? Or the other people that's in that division. What about, I thought that maybe even though Brian Mendoza just lost, he did beat Tszyu. I will be pushing for that, like for Brian Mendoza to try to get those belts back. But I don't know. I feel like boxing politics is going to really take over the opponents for that. What really kind of concerned me at the end of the fight when they was talking to Tszyu was kind of like he was kind of begging for a fight. Like, I'll take anybody, please, guys, pick me. Like, I'll take Thurman, I'll take Crawford because he lost. But it's like, dude, you didn't get knocked out or anything. One loss, somebody has to win and lose in a boxing match. So maybe at the end of his suspension and the end of Keith Thurman's injury, they might actually fight again. That still may be a possibility. But if I was Tszyu, I will push for a rematch. So hopefully it's either a rematch for Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora, or I hope at least, for legacy's sake, Terrence Crawford can, try to get that, strap up there and make some history.
You kind of made it seem like Tim Tszyu is being too humble in his defeat. Like, he did pretty well. He fought pretty competitively. Yeah. And if I was him, I would be like, yo, I'm trying to get that rematch right away. I would have made it known, yo, no, I want a rematch as soon as we get these injury-related suspensions over. Let's run it back. I wouldn't be like, I'll take anybody at this point. Like, I wouldn't feel so disheartened. I would just feel like even more energetic to run it back against Fundora. So it's kind of complicated. I definitely do not. You know what? As far as Errol Spence, you know what? I don't. Obviously, I think we all could agree he doesn't deserve that Fundora fight. Like, if we're talking about what's right, if what's right is right. So that's my take on it. So Gary, your thoughts going forward, your thoughts on what should what you expect should happen as far as Fundora's next fight, as well as Tim Tszyu, given their situations with the suspensions and the names they've been attached to as well.
As a Spence fan, I want to see Spence get the fight.
I
can't really see him getting it, right? Because there's a rematch clause for him for Tszyu and Fundora. That's A. B, the WBO already mandated he fought Crawford. So I don't know how legally Spence is going to have a like this. The WBO is saying you have to fight Crawford, and there's a rematch clause for the Tszyu Fundora fight. So, like, how does Spence skip all of that? Honestly, like Tiffany said, he really doesn't deserve it. He hasn't done anything at 54. Crawford didn't do anything at 54, but he's undisputed at 47. So it's the only it's the next step, right?
That's enough good of an argument
Yeah.
to make that happen. Yeah.
There's nothing left for him to do at 47, so now he's got to go to 54. So let him fight Tszyu, and then there's a rematch which everyone would want to see. I think honestly, Spence should go fight either Keith Thurman.
I was going to bring up that name, but go ahead. Yeah.
Thurman or Mendoza, a name like that, get a win, and then you can put your name in the sweepstakes to fight the winner of the rematch, or if maybe it'd be Crawford at that time if the Crawford fight is next. Like I can see the Crawford fight being next, or I can see the rematch being next. I just can't see Spence getting that fight.
Skipping the line, getting that foot right.
They're going to drop that WBO belt. That's what they're talking about. They're going to drop the belt.
They could do that. And then Crawford would fight who for that belt? They would probably make Spence the number 2 just because it's the biggest money fight possible. Like that's probably what they would do. The WBO.
He fights Tim Tszyu.
He could do that, yeah.
Belt,
the former champ, they could do that, yeah. Crawford versus, but Tszyu's now Tszyu's gonna have a choice. He can either fight Crawford for the WBO or he could rematch with Fundora.
Yeah,
who would take the Crawford fight because it's more money, right? To take the Crawford fight.
It's a bigger name too. If he beats him, the off chance that he wins, then it's kind of like,
he ain't beating Crawford, but no.
But I think for Fundora, he's not. If Fundora waits for Tszyu, it'll be a considerable long time. That period of time. So I would expect him to make a money fight, somehow, with Terrence Crawford. I think he would really entertain that because that would obviously be a big money fight. While he waits for the opportunity for a rematch with Tim Tszyu, should that happen. So great thoughts, Gary and Tiffany. Let's talk about the next co-main event. That was this is going to be exciting. We saw Isaac Pitbull Cruz defeating the trash talking, always highly animated Rolly Romero with that 8th round TKO, becoming the new WBA super lightweight champion. From round 1, we saw that Cruz wasted no time to establish his lead in that fight by landing a left hook that had Romero shaken up, wobbled, sliding against his back foot, almost to a near knockdown score for Pitbull Cruz. For that point on, Romero was pretty much on defense mode, using his slickness, his athleticism to extend the fight as much as he could into the later rounds. Despite all of that, Pitbull Cruz was still able to position himself well within range to land against Romero numerous times throughout the rest of the fight. In the 8th, Romero was caught not responding back to a flurry of Pitbull's punches, which prompted referee Thomas Taylor to end the fight with nearly a minute left into the round. So, Tiffany, give us how you saw them matching up, and then also your reactions to the fight. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Well, first I'm gonna have to eat my words, because the first thing I said when they announced this fight, that Isaac was too small for that division. And I'm not saying weight-wise, I just felt like he's too short. Like he's too short to reach the reach advantage. Sorry, my dog. Reach advantage is gonna be bad, but sorry, somebody's across the street.
You're good, Tiffany.
Top flight security of the world at my house. Well, I felt like he was too small, but he proved me wrong. However, I still don't think that he can beat the top at 135. I felt like he did a lot of reaching and lunging to get to Rolly Romero. But I am glad on the same note that he shut him up. I'm not a big Rolly fan. I feel like he has some athleticism. He's not the greatest boxer. And I hate his stance. He's like a martial artist. Like, I know he used to do martial arts, but that's how he stands. And so, like, it's always, something is always off with him. And I just felt like that was a great fight. I'll be honest with you. It was exciting. I was expecting a little bit more from Rolly, but not really. But I also felt like Cruz is a pressure fighter, but he was doing too much lunging and swinging upwards, like trajectory, jump punches and stuff like that. But overall, it was a great fight. I just don't see Isak taking over that 140-pound division. I feel like he'll have a tough time beating some of the top guys. I feel like they will outbox him. Rolly just doesn't have the skills to do that.
Great take, Tiffany. Also, we got none other than the Courtney Burt Brown Sugar Tanner. What's up, Courtney? Before we get your take on Isak Cruz taking the W against Romero, any opening thoughts? Shout outs you want to give out? Go ahead, Courtney.
Hey, day late, dollar short, but still blessed to be here. Wow, what a segment to come in on.
Yeah.
Because I already know I'm gonna take some smoke on that one. I've already got people hitting me up. Yeah, as soon as that went down, I got that completely wrong. But props to Isak Cruz. Seeing how it unfolded and it went down, there's nothing really to be too surprised about. Because it's like we didn't see anything from Rolly Romero that we haven't seen before. And we haven't seen anything from Isak Cruz that we haven't seen before. I just thought that Rolly Romero was going to be, he was on a basic level, he was going to be skilled enough to leverage all of his advantages against a guy who has no business at 140, such as Isak Cruz. But Isak Cruz, he went in there and he made a statement. And, he said at the end of the fight, I came to terminate Rolly Romero and make him eat all the garbage he was talking. It's a classic example that we've seen time and time again in boxing where a guy who likes to talk gets in with a guy who likes to fight. And that's exactly what happened to Rolly Romero. Shout out to Isak Cruz. In basically his backstory and all that he's overcome and all that he's shouldered in becoming a world champion, becoming another world champion from Mexico. That's one that his country can definitely be proud of, especially with the performance that he's turned in and basically everything he's done and the way he's fought to get there. Coming in late against Tank Davis. And basically surpassing and defying expectations in that fight, and dropping that fight, and not necessarily whining or crying about the rematch or I deserve to be in big fights because of that losing performance or whatever. No, he got back in line and he fought his way back, and it paid dividends for him. So that's great for boxing. That's great for him. And that's just a great example of where we need to see things go in the sport as the sport takes a lot of criticism. But definitely one of your feel good stories. As far as where I see him and where he stacks up at 140, it's insert Isak Cruz against anybody holding a belt at 140, and that's a fun fight to watch. That's must see television, even against some of the guys who were in and around the division who don't have belts. I mean, like, who wouldn't like to see Isak Cruz getting with Ryan Garcia? The fight I would love to see, or Regis Prograis against Isak Cruz. But the one I want to see, because y'all know I love unification fights. I love the belt aligning and seeing us go closer to undisputed. But I would love to see Subriel Matisse against Isak Cruz. Somebody doesn't leave the ring on their own reconnaissance in that fight. It's Mexico versus Puerto Rico, and they're two dudes who would want to be in with each other because they couldn't stand the fact that the other would think or say that they were better than the other one. That would just be live. So I mean, congratulations to Isak Cruz. I mean, and welcome to 140. And if there was the sport we all would want it to be, everybody at 140 holding a belt right now be welcoming Isak Cruz to the party and jockeying and offering him an opportunity to unify. But we'll see who does.
You know, Courtney, you and I, we attended during the height of COVID. Um, we attended Tank Davis versus Pitbull Cruz fight at the Crypto Arena, aka Staples Center. From that time then up to this fight that we're talking about, uh, have you seen anything in Pitbull that has changed for the better for him? Anything at all specifically, or you generally you think he's still the same type of fighter, or anything specific you see in him that has, I guess, evolved from that point then and now?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen anything. I think if anything though, I think the motor, like he's already known for having a motor. I think the motor has improved. I think
Okay.
I think he's working on it. I think there's listen. I think he'll be the first to tell you he's not a skilled. He's not a skilled operator. What he relies on is is coming forward, pressuring, and having the motor to do that at a high rate for 12 rounds. I think what we saw against Tank is towards the end it dropped off. You know what I'm saying? He didn't come he didn't come with as much intensity as he did at first. And Tank was able to capitalize on that. Tank, having with being down to one hand, he was able down the stretch. He was able to separate, get distance, catch his breath, and then get a second look at what Cruz was doing. And I think that's where he was able to differentiate himself down the line. And that was the difference. I think Cruz has worked on that, and he's not letting guys do that. Well, I mean, first, there's not too many guys who are getting that far in the fight with him, but
Right.
I think if anything, he's worked on the motor and the stamina to be able to have that energy and have that drive to continue to press guys. And I think that's made him harder to deal with.
Great
And
assessment.
also, I think another thing is a confidence factor.
Yeah.
He's fought for a world championship before. You know what I'm saying? He's co-headlined on a pay-per-view before. You know what I'm saying? He's been in with the best in a division in Tank Davis before. And he's also come up short before. You know what I'm saying? So he knows he knows the intricacy of all those things. So he's, his confidence and his experience level, they're at that higher caliber, and he's fighting. You know what I'm saying? And he's fighting like somebody who's taking that into account and into stock. So he's fighting like a guy who nothing surprises him, and he's got nothing to lose, and everything to gain, and that's how he went in there against Rolly.
Great stuff. Gary Kittleson of 3D Boxing Blog. Your thoughts on that fight? Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed with Isak. Like Courtney said, he hasn't really changed anything. He's just gotten better at what he does. He's gotten really good at fighting in that small crouch, coming forward. He's better at slipping shots. Now, he still gets hit a lot, but he's not target practice like he's been in the past. He moves a little better. He's just gotten better. And the fight that I really want to see is see him rematch with Gervonta, right? Because at 140, Cruz really has no business being there. So neither does Tank Davis, right? I mean, Tank Davis is a lightweight who can fight at 140. So let's just make that fight, because like Matias isn't the same size as Cruz. Like I love Cruz, but like Matias, it was just going to be too much for him, right? He's too big, he's too strong. It might be fun while it lasts, but eventually Matias is going to get in there and stop him, right? If he goes back down to 135 where he belongs, he doesn't have a belt. It's like, where does he really go from here? But I was really impressed with Cruz. I want to see him rematch with Tank. It's a makeable fight, obviously. The first fight was good. I expect this one to be better. And size-wise, it makes sense. And Cruz isn't going to be completely out. Man, like, Devin Haney is not the biggest puncher in the world, but Devin Haney is huge. Like, he's going to be 15 pounds bigger than Isak Cruz in the ring. And it's like, I get Cruz has a belt at this weight class, but these guys aren't his size.
That's great take, Gary. And also,
Hey Gary,
go ahead.
Gary, what do you think about Isak Cruz and Ryan Garcia?
I don't think much of Garcia. Garcia is going to be a lot bigger. I'd probably take Cruz in that fight. I think Cruz can get on the inside. He can make Ryan's life hell, and he can beat him up on the inside. I'm not 100% sold on that, but like if you put a gun in my head, said Cruz or Rye, I'll probably take Cruz.
That's a foreseeable fight in the near future, but so definitely interesting scenarios for Cruz going forward. Now that he's the WBA holder of in that division. Courtney, since we got you here, your thoughts on Fundora's split decision victory over Tszyu. So we already discussed that, but we like to get your thoughts. Obviously, go ahead, Courtney.
Very, very surprising. Very surprising for him. Very unfortunate for Tszyu. I think Tszyu was on his way to possibly putting a life-altering beating on Fundora until that went down and that turned the tide. I just felt that's the momentum of where that was going. But yeah, that that's one of those things where it's it's a legit win. Props to Tszyu for giving him his credit, not making any excuses. I think Tszyu was saying basically the onus was on him to figure out a way to fight through that unfortunate injury, and he didn't. Fundora, he held on, showed a lot of perseverance. There's a lot of guys in there with Tszyu who would have folded after having that early, after Tszyu's early success and having to fight past a broken nose. That definitely, this definitely throws 154 into a tizzy and a lot of uncertainty. I would, I just think just because of the way that unfolded and the way Fundora won won the fight and won the belt and won his status, I think it would only be right and only be honorable for him to give Tszyu an immediate rematch. I would, I would think the onus would be on the sanctioning body too, to see how that went down, and to allow Tszyu to have an immediate rematch opportunity to avenge himself and get that belt back. But this is boxing. This is PBC. This is Al Heyman. We're talking about. And Fundora basically, and it's an unfortunate thing because Fundora stepped in last minute for Keith Thurman. And when you're an opponent and you get your fill in, they're just thinking about you're basically an easier guy to take care of than the guy they were training for. So they're not thinking rematch clause. You know what I'm saying? They're not thinking how it's gonna pan out in the financials and with the contracts and whatever. So enter Errol Spence Jr. Wow, what a narrative that would be. Personally,
while you were gone, Keith Thurman was mentioned as a possibility for Spence to match up with if he doesn't get that fight with Fundora. Your thoughts on that scenario?
Listen, I think the vastly degraded quality that Errol Spence is in, it's gonna be tough. He's gonna have a tough out against anybody at 154 that a lot of people are willing to admit to themselves, and a lot of his fan base is willing to admit. I think I'm not one of those people calling for Spence to retire or saying, but I think he needs to walk slow. I think him going in against a guy who is a natural 154 fighter and who is standing at 6'5", 6'6" is not the way. As far as prospects against Keith Thurman, I think Keith Thurman. I think that's probably one of the most smarter matchups because you're in with a guy who's gonna be coming in with a lot of ring rust. And I think Keith Thurman's injury, the bicep injury in training, I think that's indicative of him being, older, and a combination of him being older and being out of the ring so long and getting in a situation where he's, doing so much intense training in a full camp. The body does not respond the way you want it, and I think that's indicative of that. So I think it might be a situation where Spence and Keith Thurman are degraded enough to go in there and make a fun fight and make an entertaining fight for the people. But I mean, as far as Spence against anybody who is a full-fledged contender, killer, belt holder at 154, I think that's a dangerous prospect for him.
You know, Errol Spence like that danger. You don't
Hey.
smoke.
Hey, I mean, he like that danger. Yeah, I mean, obviously him riding in a sports car while intoxicated going 90 plus miles an hour without the seatbelt is indicative that he likes a lot of danger.
And then he came back and called Danny Garcia, right? You see what I mean? Like he don't duck no smoking. I'm not an Errol Spence fan. I gotta give him that.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. And listen, we don't watch the sport for to see these guys play it safe. You know what I'm saying? We really don't.
Very true.
You know what I'm saying? The Errol Spence's fan base, as much as they were hurting after the brutal beatdown that Crawford put on him, they were reinvigorated and re-energized. You know what I'm saying? Their guy is back. So hey, you know, if the fight is viable and they're willing to get in with each other, and by Spence's comments, you know what I'm saying, he thinks he'll be able to break down Fundora. Hey, let's see it. Let's get it on. I just think as far as his prospects and his chances, I'm not as high on him as other people are. You know, as far I think it takes more than an outward show of confidence where, you know, you get in there and you call somebody out, or you say, let's get it on, and people are like, oh man, he got balls, he back, this, that, and the third, or whatever. No, like after taking a beat down like that, the bud, you got to show me something to prove to me, to convince me that you're back. And we've seen nothing from Spence, so I'm not high on him.
Gary, where you at, Gary?
Yeah, I agree with Courtney. I'm a Spence guy. That's my boy. But I see no reason to think that he could be any of those names at 154 until he proves otherwise, right? Like they asked me a couple weeks ago, you know, if Barrios fought Spence, who would you lean towards? Honestly, given their last fight, each man, probably Barrios. Like Spence needs to reestablish himself, especially at a bigger weight class. 154 is also a loaded division, right? Like if you just gave me any of those top names at 54, I'm probably going to take the other name until Spence proves otherwise. I mean, the last time Spence really looked good in a fight was Danny Garcia. That was a long time ago. That was a really long time ago. So, you know, like as much as I love Spence, yeah, especially at a new weight class, he's got to show me that he's still the Errol Spence of old.
If not Thurman, what other possible name could Spence practically match up against to prove otherwise, like you said, Gary?
Mendoza's a name. Like if you're still that good, you should dispose of Mendoza.
Okay. So yeah. So it's Spence is in a tough bind, obviously. So you know, Courtney. Also, we also touched upon the top rank card that happened that weekend. Your overall thoughts on Sinisa Estrada becoming the undisputed minimum weight champion, and also if any thoughts on your thoughts on Oscar Valdez's win against Liam Wilson on that top rank card.
You know, Oscar Valdez, you know, big fan since the beginning. I think I was as big a fan as I developed into because my boy Devon McLaughlin was so high on him. But you know, the thing is, if you're a boxing fan, the thing you gotta love about Oscar Valdez is just, you know what I'm saying, his determination to you know, always come again. You know, it's taken some very stark and convincing losses, but it you know, it never seems to drain his drive. It never seems to drain his confidence. You know what I'm saying? He's a guy who comes off the big L's, always thinking and believing and reaching for a way forward. So, you know what I'm saying? I think as long as Oscar Valdez is a guy in the sport who is operating and who is striving and who is plying his trade and doing his thing. I think, I think people, he's an easy guy to root for. He's an easy guy for people to stand up and cheer for. And I think boxing, and I think the mid to lower divisions, they're exciting just for having a guy like him, who's out there. And the thing about Oscar Valdez is too is, he's value for money. He's entertainment. Insert any name with him, that's a fun fight. That's a fun fight to watch. And so, and with Top Rank, he's a bankable guy. He's an easy guy to put, to headline a fight around, especially, if you're putting on a card in Tucson or Phoenix, or anywhere in the Southwest. He's a draw. He's, a quintessential proud Mexican champion. And, it just makes sense. And so I'm just looking forward to seeing where it goes for him. Continuing at 130, 135, and seeing the names that he can match up with. And I don't think it's I think it's a win that he will be a champion again. Shout out to Superbad, Sinisa Estrada, undisputed. And it's like that with her fights. She always makes it look easy. She always makes it look easy. She always makes it look like it, like it was ordained and destined. And that's it goes without saying. She did it again. And I'm looking forward to what's next for her. Whether she stays in the division and continues to defend as undisputed, or looks for new challenges up the scale.
Do you think, Corny, a follow-up question, do you think Sinisa Estrada, at this point of her career, she's marked all the check boxes in her agenda list, or what do you foresee her doing next? In your opinion, what do you think her next goal is going forward? Because it seems that she's really at the pinnacle of her career, and she's really been doing a lot, especially at this stage. Your thoughts, Corny?
Honestly, she may be at the pinnacle. I think as far as her skill set and what she's capable of, I don't think she's peaked yet.
Okay.
I don't think she's peaked yet. And I think we haven't seen the best of her because she hasn't had that challenge.
Right.
That's going to bring out the absolute best in her. Like with somebody like a Claressa Shields, we've already seen Claressa Shields in those scenarios where the person that was supposed to give her the challenge, the person that was supposed to possibly beat her, she's gotten in with them, and basically she's parlayed that. And basically, person is like, yo, this person, that was all hype, that was all cap. I'm clearly the better fighter than them. I think Sinisa Estrada is still waiting to be, for that opponent to arise and to come across. And I think she's gonna have to do that further up the scales for somebody who is more than just coming in and basically talking themselves into a big fight with her. And because I think that's what this one's sold on. Is that saying with in previous fights where because I think people know that Sinisa is very direct in addressing any trash talk, any negativity that's directed towards her in social media or otherwise, and so that tends to get people in the front of the line and basically promote the fights or whatever. But I think fans of Superbad and Sinisa Estrada are waiting for that legitimate bona fide matchup, to where we know where we're gonna see her elevate, because she's gonna have to, with the in terms of her competition level.
Hopefully it comes sooner, because she's kind of getting it. Well, she's in her early 30s, so time is of the essence, basically. So that's going to conclude episode 101 But I'd like to thank all my panelists here. Gary Kittleson of 3D Boxing Blog, Tiffany Daniels, First Lady of Boxing, certified official, Team USA Boxing, Courtney the Burr Brown Sugar Tanner. I'm gonna go one by one round on a roundabout way. Gary Kittleson, any last thoughts, shout outs you want to give out before we end it tonight?
Shout out to the 10 pod. It's always awesome to be on. It's my favorite pod. Y'all have me on for some reason. I appreciate it. Find me all over social media, 3D Boxing Blog. Appreciate y'all.
Awesome. And Tiffany Daniels, any closing words, shout outs you want to give out?
Shout out to Gary at 3D Boxing, the Standing 8 podcast, obviously the fellow panelist on the show, Aaron, for making sure all this stuff works properly and we get out all the content needed for the podcast. Shout out to all the fans and people, Jaime in the comments, engaging with us. And as well as, Ohio runs boxing. I got to shout out my people. So good luck to everybody on their upcoming fights.
Awesome. And last but definitely not least, Courtney, the Burr Brown Sugar Tanner. Any shout outs? You could do an Oscar related speech if you want, but go ahead, Courtney.
No, so I feel bad because I was late to the party on this one. I had to exit early from the party on our big episode, the 100th episode. So I just want to shout out basically everybody who has supported the movement and who keeps supporting the movement. Shout out to everybody who collaborates with us and shares the limelight and shares the shine with us. I say it all the time. There is enough of this boxing space and sphere for everybody to benefit and everybody to get a piece of and everybody to enjoy. And I love that we're in the spirit of that collaboration rather than competition. Shout out to our panelists that couldn't make it, Tommy Rush Jr. and Stephen Ruiz. Just basically, once again, shout out to everybody who is furthering the movement, everybody who's rocking with us and chiming in on the comments. We hope you'll stay with us and continue showing that love and continue to allow us to show that love back to y'all.
Awesome. And I share the same sentiments as everyone else on this panel. That's going to thank you, everyone, supporting us, watching us, listening to us, whether it's live or replaying us on the platforms. So from all of us to all of you, this is episode 101 of the Standing 8 podcast. Until next time, you have a safe night. Enjoy the rest of your day. Big boxing coming up. Haney Garcia, obviously. So a lot of good. Oh, Courtney, did you want to say something? Or were you? Oh, he's good. So yeah, from all of us to all of you, have a good night. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. We're out. Peace.